Thank you very much. Senator Tester was one of the first senators that I met when I went back to D.C. I think it was back last fall during my exploratory process. We had a great conversation about the uniqueness of our states, rural states with a couple of urban areas, but very unique in a lot of ways. And what I wanted to do was, and I offered, I said, would you like to come up to Alaska and campaign a little bit, but also see the state, understand what it's about, some of the needs that we have here, and he was very generous to say absolutely yes. Because we have a lot of similarities. We have some of the highest percentage of veterans, we have rural communities, natural resource development, and truly the uniqueness of Montana. As many of you may know, in Alaska, there's a group that gets together every single summer, the Montana Club, that gets together and celebrates their heritage from Montana. So we have a very unique relationship. Also, Senator Tester sits on some critical committees for us in Alaska. He sits on the Veterans, Energy and Natural Resources, Indian Affairs, Small Business, as just a few of the committees that he sits on and has a direct relationship to what we do here in Alaska. So from a campaign perspective, he has also a very unique status in my view. He ran against an 18-year incumbent, won by one of those landslide margins we like to call in Alaska 3,000. That's a landslide.
Absolutely.
When I won my first mayor's race, I prevented a runoff by 18 votes. So we consider yours a landslide. He's also a new kind of senator, one that understands that we have to focus on results, that partisan politics need to be set aside, that openness and transparency of the government needs to be more and more available. I took some of his ideas recently in our ethics plan and put it into our plan. That's his daily schedule, which is online, which I think is a great idea. Banning former staff from lobbying his office. These are ideas that he implemented, not waiting for any laws to occur to make it happen. He just did it. And we put it in, as you know, the local press here, we've also put that into our ethics plan. Also, when he got right in there, you know, sometimes people say new senators, it's a hard, long time before they can start making things happen. But he rolled up his sleeves, got busy, focused on the issues he was hearing from Montana families and veterans from day one. He added $125 million to the veterans budget to increase the mileage reimbursement rates for the disabled veterans and secure funding for critical projects within Montana. It is clearly a great honor and a great pleasure to have Senator Tester here in our great state on the weather that is like this every single day. I'll say that. I've been to Kodiak and Juneau recently. The sun has been out at every place I've been to, so this is a good thing. But it's just really an honor to have you here. We will be here, we will be in Fairbanks, and then we'll be in the Valley over the next couple of days, meeting with many constituent groups, veterans, and really to give the Senator a chance to see and feel the issues of Alaska. And his schedule is very, very busy, but we're just honored to have him.
Well, Mark, thank you.
Thank you.
It is great to be here. I'll tell you, as we flew in about an hour ago, and we heard the guy behind us in the airplane go, "Man, this is really a boring flight. There's nothing to see." And we look out and we see these beautiful, beautiful mountains. I'll tell you, you guys are very, very fortunate here. This is nothing short of spectacular in this state. First time I've been here, so I'm very impressed. It's very nice. I just want to say that Mark hit on a lot of the stuff that's important. This is a very important race. This race is going to get a lot of attention nationally. This is a race where we have a person who's very, very knowledgeable, very energetic, person who's got a great track record on getting things done, so who will, I believe, fit in very, very well in the United States Senate as far as changing the attitude back there, whether it's in ethics and transparency in government, or whether it's with energy policies that make sense for this country, or whether it's for education that people need to get to be able to improve our economy. When I got elected in 2006, there's 8 other freshman senators. There's going to be some people added to that this election cycle. Mark will be one of them. I'm confident of that. And when he gets back there, I think that he's going to be able to do some of the same things that we were able to do as freshman senators. Talked about the mileage reimbursement. First bill we passed was an ethics bill to add more transparency to the government. We've also done some things with renewable energy that's real positive and just a piece of the puzzle. That's a big energy puzzle for this country. We've done some stuff just right down the line. Just pick a slot. Last week, Jim Webb, a freshman senator, got the 21st Century GI Bill passed, which is a good piece of legislation for our veterans coming back from Iraq and Afghanistan. And the list goes on and on and on. Klobuchar, McCaskill, White House, all of them, and all the rest have done some great work back there. And so it's important to note that when Mark hits the ground running in January of this next year back in the United States Senate, Alaska will be well represented. There is no doubt about that in my mind. He will be able to get some things done and be able to develop some communication channels that I think are important to develop. So with that, I don't know if you take questions.
Yes, we'll be,
or not.
oh, yes, we're very open here.
Good, that's good.
But we'll be happy to take questions.
Some people don't take questions. Other people do. I like it when we take questions.
Senator Tester, my name is Matt Simon. I'm with the local CBS affiliate up here. Do you think it's time for Ted Stevens to go? Is that why you're here?
I think the real question is that you've got an opportunity to elect a person who's got a great track record, somebody who can represent Alaska in a way that I think is sorely needed. And I think Mark Begich, what he brings to the table in skills are undeniable. And I'm not, Ted's Ted, Mark is Mark. I think we're in the 21st century and Mark can do some great things for this state, and I think he will.
So your being here has nothing to do with Ted Stevens?
No, it has everything to do with Mark Begich. It has everything to do with his qualities as being a great person and somebody who would do a great job in the United States Senate.
Now you guys are in pretty much the same situation, come from a very unique state. You're essentially following in his footsteps, like just two years behind. Mm-hmm. What are some things that Mark can look forward to heading into the Senate for the first time?
Well, I think what he can look forward to is explaining rural issues from an Alaska perspective. I continually do that from a Montana perspective. I mean, a lot of folks don't really understand what rural is. He can look forward to the challenges that we're being faced with the Iraq and Afghanistan war. We're going to have a new president in the White House. It's going to be somebody that comes to the United States Senate. That hasn't happened in a long time, long time, since the early 60s. So we're going to have the opportunity to change a direction in this country that I think is going to be healthy. And it's going to be a change of direction in the right way. And Mark is going to be one of the people that I think, because of his experience in government already, locally, his strong rooting in the state of Alaska, that I think he'll be extremely effective. But there's a lot of issues out there, from energy to healthcare to foreign policy. Just go down the list to how we're taking care of our veterans. To I mean, there's a lot of room for success.
Well, you work to help open up ANWR.
Well, you know, one of the reasons I'm up here is to visit with Mark about that. I think the real issue here, though, to be honest with you, I talked about renewable energy. It's also our conventional energy sources, but it's having a national energy program that makes sense. That is really what's important. We have piecemealed our energy program here for far, far too long, and we need to have overall energy program with overall goals, and I think that's really the question. But I look forward to visiting with Mark over the next few days and learning more about Alaska. That's another reason I'm up here.
And he's going to have a lot of time with me. Part of it is, as you know, Alaska is facing an energy crisis in a lot of ways, and I don't think that's any different than what's going on around the country in different ways. And rural states face it even more harshly. I mean, the small areas that are outlining the transportation costs to get fuel out there, or developing renewable energy. And some of the things we'll talk about is, for example, in Kotzebue, where we have 18 windmills operating right now, producing over 80,000, equivalent to 80,000 gallons of diesel fuel they no longer have to purchase because they have wind energy. Or in Nome, Alaska, we have solar energy. We have some opportunity to talk about this overall energy policy. And obviously from rural states, from western states, I think what we bring is a unique way to explain it, that it's not just about one element, it's a broader perspective. And so that's the opportunity to talk about Alaska's issues, Alaska's challenges. We'll spend the next couple days doing that. Other questions? Great.
Well, I just want to thank you all for being here. This is definitely a pleasure for me to share the podium with Mark, but also see a beautiful state. It's great.
Thank you. Thank you all very much.
Sure. Well, I just wanted to talk about his experience, and he's got a very impressive pedigree of working for small businesses, working families, and middle class Alaskans in this particular case, and present himself very, very well. And that doesn't always happen with candidates. I mean, sometimes you get candidates who are bouncing around and aren't well grounded. That wasn't the case with Mark.
Was there anything that kind of tip the scale for you? Like when you talk to your colleagues out in DC after he left, saying
it was his broad base of knowledge of issues that impact Alaska, from education, understanding the need for transparency in government, to energy policy.
what kind of effort is he going to take outside of Alaska to help Mark, whether it's from you or Senator Reid?
This is going to be very similar to my race in Montana. I think the parallels are undeniable, and I think ultimately the effort is going to come from him.
Right.
Truthfully, I mean, everything else.
Right, because they're voting here.
That's exactly right. Everything else, it's going to be, but you know, we brought in a few people. We didn't bring in a lot. We brought in a few people, and we talked about issues. I brought in Max Cleland, exactly. Max Cleland from Georgia. Talked about issues. He's a former senator from Georgia.
Okay.
A triple amputee. And these are his words, not mine. When we got up on stage together, he says, it's good to be on stage with another triple amputee. I'm missing 3 fingers on my left hand. He's missing 2 legs on an arm. But just a real quality fella that, you know, we talked about veterans issues, we talked about fiscal responsibility, we talked about all those kind of things. So, you know, this is an Alaska race that's going to be determined by Alaskans. Make no mistake about it. I'm here to support Mark in his efforts and learn more about Alaska so I can help in the United States Senate.
If I can add one more thing, this last cycle 2 years ago brought in a lot of new freshmen, and there was a big batch of freshmen. That was very unique to the U.S. Senate, and because of that, after only being there 2 years, they had some experience that, you know, a lot of people wonder up here, you know, what happens with Ted gone after 40 years? What will happen? What I think you see with freshmen, there's a new batch that came in 2 years ago because there was such a new class and large class that it showed that freshmen can make a difference right off the get-go. And I think in the case of Senator Tester, this is an example that, you know, he got right there and just started working. And I think that's important because this cycle, my guess is between 5 and 8 more will change up. That in 4 years or 2.5 years, that's the largest switchover in the U.S. Senate than I can ever recall. And that gives a freshman a different kind of opportunity. I think you said the common here of success is there.
That's right. That's right. And I think that point is right on the mark.
The reason I asked you about what kind of help can he receive from outside of Alaska, you yourself said this will be probably one of the most high-profile senatorial races in the country.
There's going to be a lot of media here watching this race. There's going to be a lot of interest in this race. No mistake about it.
How about anybody else to come to Alaska? Any fundraising that you know of that can?
That's a better question.
Yeah, I think you will see us. I mean, obviously, we're going to, as I've said before, this race will probably be about a little over $4 million to $5 million race. 1.6 to 1.8 probably would be driven out of the Alaska end of it in the sense of individuals here. We already have over 1,900 contributors to this campaign already in less than 3 months. We will see a lot of interest because it is a national interest of who's in the U.S. Senate in the sense of issues of education, veterans, the war. And so we'll see, like for example, a good friend of mine, Mayor Wynn out of Austin, Texas, you know, he's just a friend of mine, says, I want to help you in any way I can. So he helped me raise some money in Austin. That will happen because there's relationships that I've built through the U.S. Conference of Mayors nationally, as well as with national folks, in this case, here with Senator Tester helping us here. But we will, you know, reach out. But at the end of the day, I want to echo what Senator Tester said. It will be Alaskans who will decide it, but there's a lot of interest in this race. And because of my long years around public service, I have a lot of friends around the country that I'm reaching out, you know, and asking for help and support because they see how important this is for not only for Alaska but for the country.
I'd like thoughts from each of you on this. Ted Stevens says he's not ready to retire. No reason why he should. He's got the connections in D.C. and in Alaska. What's each of your arguments to that?
Well, I think you got Democratic majorities in the Senate and the House. I think you've got an opportunity to put a quality person in the Senate from Alaska that can represent Alaska well for decades to come. And ultimately, my opponent didn't want to retire either. It will be the Alaskans that decide that. People, I don't mean to build his ego too much, but people like Mark Begich don't come along every day. I mean, the guy's got skills, and he's got the ability to lead, and he's got the ability to express himself and make his points. And that's good. That's good for Alaska.
And I think from my perspective, what I hear, and I've heard this before, what Alaskans are saying to me is, you know, we respect his service of the last 4 years, but Alaska's in a different position today, in a different need. And when I go out to communities all across the state, they're talking about education issues, energy issues, but they're also looking out the next 20 and 30 years. What do we do today to have the impact for the next generation of Alaska families? What's going to be the next agenda? And on top of that, I think there's a disconnect people feel in Washington, D.C. I think the reason Senator Tester won was because of the same thing. People felt the Beltway was pretty tight, holding people in D.C. And in Alaska, I see that exact same thing. I think you experienced it 2 years ago. We're experiencing here where people want someone who represents them that's transparent and open, but really connected with Alaska families. An example I give all the time when I talk to groups, I said, you know, I've been one of those that have been uninsured. When my child was born, we didn't have insurance. So I recognize what that means. I've been a small business person. I've had good times and bad times. So I've recognized when a small business person is trying to raise capital to start their business, or being able to meet their payroll, or figure out how to provide insurance for their employees. That's an experience that the U.S. Senate, I think, has been lacking for a long time. Senator Tester comes from a farming background. And, you know, if I still recall, you go back off and on to go farming. And so, you know, keeping that kind of perspective is what's desperately needed in Washington, D.C. People are saying it. They want to see that kind of, in Alaska, what I call it the Alaska family representation. That's a very different than before.
Did you bring anybody else out from Alaska to talk to? Was anybody else out from Alaska and D.C. to talk to you folks?
Not to me.
Okay.
I just made the pitch.
Yeah,
I know it's hard for you to believe that, but I sat down with
you know, it was a situation where you know a good thing when you see it.
The reason I asked you, you had said earlier, a few people came up and you used a Georgia example, so I wanted to...
Oh, I'm talking about two to campaign for me in Montana. You were,
the
question revolved around the influences from out of state.
There's more Alaskans going to him.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. No. Max Cleland was a senator out of Georgia.
And he came to Montana?
Vietnam, we invited him up to Montana. Came
I see.
Yeah.
And Max is if you ever met him, he's one of the finest individuals.
Okay, so now you're going around and doing this 2 years into your term.
If Mark, we talked, connected up, said, are you willing to come to Alaska? Never been to Alaska, love to see Alaska, heard great things about it, my brother's been here. And plus we can also help him out a little bit.
Get used to the midnight sun.
Yeah, that's cool. That's right.
That'll be good. Anything else? Because we had to roll to another thing here.